Hej, hej, witam was bardzo serdecznie, jestem Gostomi, a to jest kolejny odcinek z serii Call of Juarez, Gunslinger. Zaczynajmy.
My own brothers died tragically as well, truth be told. It was 1868, and me and my older brothers were pulling a tidy profit running cattle into Juarez, Mexico. One night after my brothers retired for the evening, I found a little poker game in a cantina with a couple of cowboys. And I just couldn't lose. I even won an old Spanish coin that had to be 100 years old. Well, I was mighty pleased with myself the next morning as my brothers and I rode for Texas. But before we crossed the border, those cowboys caught up with us. It was Johnny Ringo, Roscoe Bob Bryant, and another asshole named Jim. They wanted their money back and everything else we had, including our lives, as those boys didn't want us coming for them later. Bob put that old Spanish coin in my mouth and said, "I won't have it said that I left you with nothing, boy." Well, those horses bolted, and there we hung as those bastards rode away. The branch finally snapped under the weight of the three of us, but being my older brothers were bigger and heavier, they were already dead. And right then I swore to myself that I would avenge them. Ringo you know about. But Bob eluded me, until I heard he was riding with the Wild Bunch.
A więc wygląda na to, że z łowcy nagród będziemy teraz prowadzić własną zemstę, szukać zabójcy naszych braci, obyśmy ich szybko znaleźli.
I'd been on their trail for months, ever since they left their hideout in the Bighorn Mountains. Led by Butch Cassidy, they were a loose association of outlaws who robbed banks and trains from Colorado to Montana. Among them was the Sundance Kid, and that murderous hombre I was tracking, Roscoe Bob Bryant.
Were you a part of that giant Pinkerton posse after the Wild Bunch?
No, boy. A circus like that would have slowed me down. Besides, I wanted Bryant all to myself. I'd heard about a large shipment of gold being transported to Wilcox, Wyoming on the Overland
Dobra,
Flyer.
przeszkodzę mu. Mamy nowy poziom. To jest bardzo ważne. Ło, prędkość zwiększona o 30%, niezłe. Tutaj co mamy? Strzelanie z 2 obrzymów naraz. Ja i tak nie korzystam z obrzymów. Tutaj co to jest? W niedoczasie zwiększa zwinność w trybie koncentracji. A weźmy sobie to. Tak.
I figured the Wild Bunch would likely hit such a treasure, and by God, I figured right.
Tylko szkoda, że mamy te quick shootery. Nie lubię tej broni. Wolałbym Rangera. Mam pozłacane i wiecie. O kur...
They blew the bridge with the intention of forcing the train to stop. Well, I assumed the Wild Bunch was likely in the still intact part of the train high above. So I had no choice but to make my way up through the passenger cars dangling down. I was determined to make that sumbitch Bob pay for what he did to my brothers.
Jesteśmy już na górze.
I found the device they used to blow the tracks, so I knew I was headed in the right direction.
still ringing from blowing up that ridge.
O, tam już ktoś jest.
What'd you say? I can't hear a goddamn thing.
A, dobra.
Well, I made my way off unscathed and came upon a few members of the gang and had no choice but to dispatch them. From there, I had to negotiate an even more precarious route. But first, I would need to get my ass out of there. I jumped from the frying pan into the fire as the train was clearly fixing to fall. I had found the gang, but in order to find old Bob, I needed to fight my way forward past a whole passel of desperados.
O, też na sześciostrzelce sobie. A, tu sześciostrzelce mam zdobyone.
Outside, inside, any way I could, I made my way towards my prey.
You hear me? Come and get me!
Well, what about the passengers?
It was mostly a freight train, as I recall. There were no passengers aboard that day. As I mentioned before, I am not fond of heights. But I was too busy dodging bullets to worry about falling to my death. Odds were I was likely to die that day anyway. So I was determined to take down as many of those bastards as I could.
You can run! Can't hide forever!
Możemy tutaj zejść?
You ain't seen nothing like some.
At times it was like shooting ducks in a shooting gallery. The only difference is these damn ducks shot
To
back.
jest kombos. O, i mamy sekret. O, gdzie ja tu mogę iść? Idziemy. Po drzewie się nie da. O, tu ma być. Nie, nie da się. O, drabina.
I kept hoping the law would show up and give me a hand.
You mean like that giant Pinkerton posse that I read about? Did they come riding in, guns a-blazing to help?
Syndicate, Curie, Sundance Kid. No nieźle, nieźle.
Help?
Gangsters,
From the
a?
Pinkertons? No, son. I had to fight the wild bunch all by my lonesome, as usual.
Who the hell is that? Take cover! Retreat!
Uważam.
He's killing everybody!
Spokojnie, może być.
They'll kill us all! You won't get
Ze strzelby korzystam.
You ready for a belly?
Teraz.
difference is those dime novels didn't portray this as it happened, did they? Only a few stragglers were left. I had to cut them down pronto if I was going to stay on old Bob's trail. Once I silenced all those guns, I went searching for my nemesis, determined to finally have my justice. But the only survivor who welcomed me was George Flat-Nosed Curry.
Who was he?
The fastest gun in the gang. Right after Sundance, I mean. And Kid Curry, and maybe Elsie Lay. Though some folks might dispute that.
Znalazł sobie swój poziom, no wie co to mam swego, chcę punkt rozdysponować. Ale skupienie jest niezłe.
On that very same day, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid decided to leave the Wild Bunch behind and decamped for South America.
Ja ich jeszcze złapę. Się nie było.
They ended up living down there for many years, but I'm sure you already know all about that.
George Flat-Nosed Curry. Moje ulubione broń sześciostrzałowe są. Dobra, kontynuujemy opowieść. Minuta i 30 sekund do piekła. No ciekawe, ciekawe, o coż to będzie chodziło.
I tried to find Bob Bryant, but it was as if he'd disappeared. Sometime later, I heard the Wild Bunch was back together. Kid Curry escaped from jail, and now he was running the whole shebang. So I took to their trail, as I was still in pursuit of my brother's killer and hoped that he was back with him.
No niestety znowu mamy quick shootera. No już wolałbym sześciostrzałca Rangera czy coś takiego. Ale najpierw zanim ruszymy dalej, rozdysponujmy sobie nasz punkt. No tak bardzo chciałbym mieć złoty karabin. No nie wiem co sobie wybrać, ale biorę tego łowcę głów. Coś do mnie nie przemawia ta druga umiejętność.
That kid Curry's kinda crazy, ain't he?
Don't let him hear you saying that.
Anyways, I tracked those boys to a camp right outside Parachute, Colorado.
We're under fire!
Being outnumbered, I didn't bother with a warning shot. I just started taking those bastards down. Old Bob wasn't among them, and neither was Kid Curry. I could sense him close by, however, plotting something nasty. I just needed a clue as to their whereabouts.
Myślałem, że on żyje. Gdzie mam iść? Poszukuję wskazówek dotyczących miejsca pobytu reszty gangu. A, dobra.
And I found one. A map with their bold plan clearly marked. This time they were fixing to blow up a train trestle. Property of the Union Pacific. plan clearly indicated how they were fixing to undermine several of the weakest wooden supports.
O, sporo ładunków wybuchowych. Ale jednak wezmę sobie ten karabin.
Kid Curry was considered the wildest of the wild bunch. It was said that he fathered 85 bastard children, though some say it was only 5. Kid Curry had bragged to a whore how he was gonna rob a train heading to the U.S. Mint in Denver. And that whore, Fat Sally, she told me.
A, tutaj jest drabina. Teraz spróbuję sobie tędy przejść.
The bridge was rigged with dynamite, so I decided I'd best be careful confronting those bastards.
Coś.
A moment later, I saw a ladder that somehow had escaped my attention.
Dobra, mamy drabinkę.
Don't you blow us up now.
Don't worry, I know what I'm doing.
Ktoś tu jest. Jakiś cwaniacze. Myślą, że są cwaniaczki. Aha, jeszcze mnie nie znają. Nie wiem, dobra, lepiej tam nie będę strzelał. Bo jeszcze się okaże, że tam jest... Że tam jeszcze jest dynamit przy... no tam. Podłożyli dynamit. A, tam są. Dobra, patrzcie.
But the wild bunch did not take kindly to my presence and attempted to blow my head off. It appeared the kid had found a number of new recruits to bolster their ranks. Guess there's always desperate men willing to trade their lives for stolen treasure.
Ale pazera musiałem zabić tylko z jednego. Chwila, muszę tutaj... Gdzie on jest? Czas mi marnuje szkoda.
What happened next?
Well, having removed the first bundle of dynamite, I decided I might as well remove the other one.
Co tu mamy?
Once that was done, I figured I'd find my way from there.
Dobra. Chyba wszyscy jak na razie. Kolejny. No tutaj będzie chyba sporo, niestety.
What happened then?
Had to remove more of that damn dynamite.
Jest sobie nie trafiony, bo tak to mogę już szybciej zlikwidować, ale...
It must have been terrifying trying to make your way across.
I was sweating it a bit, but then I noticed a footbridge tied up on high, so I shot the rope.
Mam łatwe przejście. O, troszkę mnie pokręszowało. Tylko nasuwa się pytanie. Którędy ja mam zejść? Aha, dobra. Co i tam wtedy mamy? Jeszcze ktoś?
Show yourself,
Muzyczka
coward!
fajna.
So that was all the dynamite?
Funny you should mention that, darling. As actually there was a fourth charge impeding my progress.
Przybiliśmy sobie najpierw oprychu.
Once I removed it, my path was pretty clear.
Wow, jak to ulepszył? A już tu ten ulepszony jakiś. Ten jest sprzedany.
So I proceeded onward to realize that that way just wasn't gonna work. I needed an alternate path forward.
O, tam ktoś jest, już widziałem. A nie, to trupy tylko są. A. No co? Trendy w tym mieście. A, idźmy po tym, po tej linii. No nie da się. Ja już nie wiem. Tutaj trzeba wejść. Nie wiem, gdzie tutaj znaleźć to wejście. Co my tu w ogóle mamy? Znajdź inną drogę na drugą stronę. A, to tam jest, dobra.
Luckily, I found a cave, and as I made my way back to the bridge, I saw something that concerned me. It was a long burning fuse, and it was moving fast as hell. I had to catch it. The burning fuse was so damn quick, I had to run like the wind. I almost had it, but no. Thought I was gonna have a coronary when I lost sight of those sparks. My heart was pounding like a sledgehammer. I knew that failure meant boom. Then, finally, at the last moment. Whew. Of course, I was successful, or clearly I wouldn't be talking to you folks here today. Naturally, I removed the last dynamite charge. Well, it was a touching reunion. But by this time, I was thoroughly exhausted and dragging my ass, as I was not a young man anymore.
Gdzie ja mam iść? A, dobra. Podążamy. Mam nadzieję, że dobrze idę.
Kill that SOB! Make him please! Send him to perdition!
Finally, I found those boys. Or more precisely, they found me.
Mogę sobie włączyć to. Tryb koncentracji. Ale już dobra.
He's crazy! Curry asked me!
Nowy poziom mamy. Teraz będę tutaj dał, co to jest? Aha, dobra. To będę wiedział, gdzie jest wróg, choćby się chował. Dobra. Weźmy sobie te dynamity wszystkie. Naboje. No co to ma być? No, ja tu się perfekcyjnie chowam. Perfekcyjne opanowanie. Panie, patrzę na ten zaraz sobie dam ten nowy poziom. Dynamit, chwila. A, jeszcze ten tu będzie strzelać. A, dobra, co? Dobra. I teraz możemy sobie ten ten punkt umiejętności wydać. Dam sobie w to, co przedtem planowałem. Zbierzmy sobie amunicję.
Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Kid Curry opened up on me with a goddamn Gatling gun. It was hidden in this tunnel and pretty well shielded.
Chodź, tutaj to odpisać. Chyba dynamitem, no bo jak? Inaczej się przecież nie da. Chociaż spróbujmy. No jeszcze cień wygląda, ten tu miał mało problemów z tym widziałem piórnym.
Luckily, I had located some dynamite. I still, however, had my work cut out for me.
Daję już 4 kule, no. Czy wy to rozumiecie? Byłem już tak blisko. Dobra, idziemy.
That's when I met Kid Curry himself. He had decided to stop pussyfooting around and deal with me personally.
No nie, no powiedzcie mi, że on nie zginął. No powiedzcie mi, że on nie zginął, no. Co za gość. Wygląda jakby z więzienia uciekł. Znaczy, no takie ma fajne, takie paski ma taką. Jest ten chłopiec w pasiastej piżamie.
As fast as he was, I was just a bit faster.
Ale jest dla mnie za słaby. Nie ma lipy.
And as he lay wounded, I demanded to know the whereabouts of Roscoe Bob Bryant. He shouted at me. Is that what this is about? Bob went with Butch and Sundance to South America. You ain't never finding him.
Patrzcie, jaki wspaniały, że jest kozak.
Those were his last words.
No, tym sposobem kończymy dzisiejszy odcinek. Żegnam się z wami bardzo serdecznie. Ja Ghost i zapraszam na kolejne odcinki z serii Call of Juarez, Gunslinger, jak i z serii Far Cry 4. Nara.